Modi's first day at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization was highlighted by two bilateral meets with Russia and China. President Xi Jinping congratulated Modi on his electoral victory, and the two discussed ways to strengthen the relationship between the two countries. Modi also had a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, which mainly focused on defense and energy. Putin also invited Modi to be the chief guest at the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok in September. Prime Minister Modi is set to have a busy day at Bishkek today. He will arrive at the presidential palace to meet the Kyrgyz president, after which he will attend the formal meeting of the head of states. He will then be meeting the president of Belarus and Mongolia, after which he will have a bilateral with Iran. The Prime Minister will also inaugurate the India-Kyrgyz Business Forum, after which he will have a restricted meeting with the Kyrgyz president. ISRO chief K. Sivan has revealed that India plans to have its own space station after 2022. India will start work on the space station after Gaganyaan, India's first crewed mission to space. The space station will weigh around 20 tons and will take around 5 to 7 years to be completed. The proposed space station will be able to house astronauts for 15 to 20 days. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has blamed Iran for the attacks on the two oil tankers in the Persian Gulf. Pompeo has said that the conclusion is based on intelligence and the kind of weapons used, all of which allegedly mirror recent Iranian attacks. The secretary said that the attack is part of Iran's efforts to escalate tensions and paint the Western world as a villain. Pro-democracy protesters in Sudan say that despite the suspension of the civil disobedience campaign, their revolution is not over. The US and Ethiopia have stepped up efforts to help the Sudan find a peaceful solution to the ongoing crisis. Protest leaders have agreed to resume negotiations with the ruling military council. This follows the protest leaders urging people to return to work after the first day of general strike. The decision reflects a growing desire among the protesters to avoid any further escalation of violence. Sudan's ruling military council has refused a request by the opposition alliance to move mediation discussions with Ethiopia to Addis Ababa, despite demanding talks resume within 24 hours. Earlier on Thursday, an African Union envoy said the mediation efforts to ease Sudan's crisis are making significant progress, while leaders of the protest movement accuse the ruling military of pursuing a crackdown on protesters. Thousands of Haitians protested in the streets of Port-au-Prince on Thursday, demanding that President Jovenel Moïse resign over corruption allegations. A few barricades of burning tires were placed in the streets and police were seen skirting the perimeters of the march. But there were no reports of anyone being injured or killed. Protesters are demanding investigation into the whereabouts of funds from subsidized oil shipments from Venezuela. China has condemned the violence which erupted in Hong Kong during protests against the extradition bill. Meanwhile, protesters returned to the streets in Hong Kong to demonstrate against the proposed law that would allow suspected criminals to be extradited to mainland China. A group of pro-democracy lawmakers in Hong Kong condemned the government's description of protests as a riot. Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam had blamed protesters for a politically motivated riot. She also said that some young people resorted to dangerous and life-threatening acts. The UN's Special Representative for Mali has called for the hellish cycle of violence in the West African country to end. Mohamed Saleh Anadif said that it is necessary to emphasize the importance of the fight against impunity. The attack on the ethnic Dogon village was the latest massacre in a region which is witnessing growing conflict. Tens of thousands of people have fled the region in recent months. Tension has been high since a Dogon militia was accused of carrying out a massacre in an ethnic Pule village in which 157 people were killed. A house in southern Israel was struck by a rocket launched from the Gaza Strip on Thursday night. The Israeli military said that they attacked a Hamas target in Gaza after a Palestinian rocket strike. The latest hostilities followed Israel's closure of offshore waters to Gaza fishermen on Wednesday in what it said was a response to incendiary balloons launching across the frontier that caused fire in fields in southern Israel this week. Ecuador is helping thousands of migrants from Venezuela to cross over to Peru by sending buses to the border. Certain reports suggest that around 4,000 people have crossed the border between the two countries, which is much more than the usual number of 1,600 per day. There is apparently a 24-hour delay at the border between Colombia and Ecuador due to the large number of migrants attempting to cross. Brenton Tarrant, the man accused of killing 51 people in the mass shooting in New Zealand, has pleaded not guilty to all his charges. There are 51 charges of murder, 40 charges of attempted murder and 1 terrorism charge against him. His plea is unlikely to be successful, though as Tarrant had himself streamed his dastardly attack live on social media. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders' tenure will come to an end after this month. Her tenure was marked by breakdowns in regular press briefings and questions about the administration's credibility as well as her own. Sanders is one of Trump's closest and most trusted White House aides and one of the few remaining on staff who worked on his campaign. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has launched another verbal attack on Donald Trump. She said that the U.S. president does not know right from wrong and is indifferent to law. She said that when Trump says he is open to accepting information from a foreign power against a political opponent, he's ignoring his oath to office. This is in response to Trump's interview to a news agency in which he said that if a foreign power were offering dirt on his 2020 opponent, he would be open to accepting it. He added that he would have no obligation to call the FBI. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has pushed for tough law enforcement and treatment of addicts to combat Montana's methamphetamine crisis. During his visit to the U.S. state of Montana, Pence heard stories of violence and child abuse linked to the drug. Treatment providers and recovering addicts said that the drug has emerged as a far bigger problem in Montana than addiction to opioids elsewhere in the country. Meth is, in fact, the driving force behind many robberies and violent crimes. Pence pledged the administration's support for resolving the issue. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter's contribution in setting the U.S.-China diplomatic relationship has been recognized in an award ceremony. The Bush-China Foundation bestowed its inaugural George H.W. Bush Award of Statesmanship in U.S.-China relations on Carter. Speakers at the ceremony took the opportunity to look back at how Carter helped normalize what was considered the most important bilateral relationship in the world. Carter, who underwent a surgery last month, was not present at the ceremony in person. Chip Carter received the award on his father's behalf. U.S. President Donald Trump and television star Kim Kardashian have come together to promote second chances for former prison inmates. The two said that when inmates come home, the biggest priority is to help them get jobs that they love so that they can start rebuilding their lives. Trump had passed legislation calling the First Step Act in December to urge companies to give jobs to inmates.
Difference and just wanted to do the right thing, but I didn't know how. Memos and being the assistant to them. These people want to work. They
Congress leader Manu Singhvi has said that Rahul Gandhi will continue as the president of the party despite reports that he wants to step down. Singhvi said that the party continues to stand behind their leader despite the drubbing they received in the 2019 Lok Sabha polls. In other India stories, the northern India continues to reel under heat wave. A dust storm affected New Delhi and suburban areas earlier. Video from Gurugram shows high-rise buildings were covered in dust. Trees swung wildly due to severe winds. Temperature in northern India reached as high as 48 degrees this week. Pakistan has extended its airspace ban along its eastern border with India till 28th of June. The country had fully closed its airspace on 26 February after the Indian Air Force struck Jaish-e-Mohammed camp in Balakot. Since then, it has only opened 2 routes. Both passed through southern Pakistan. A Pakistan government official said that since then, there has been no official communication between the two countries regarding opening of their airspace. The status quo, hence, will prevail. British Home Secretary Sajid Javid has signed the extradition papers for Julian Assange. The British Home Secretary has said that the final decision on WikiLeaks founder is now with the courts. Julian Assange faces an 18-count indictment that includes charges under the Espionage Act. Assange is accused of soliciting and publishing classified information and conspiring to hack into a government computer. Last month, Assange was too ill to appear for the hearing at Westminster Magistrates Court. The hearing has now been rescheduled for Friday. Mughal Emperor Shah Jahans dagger and ring are up for auction at Christie's auction house in New York. Shah Jahan, known for making the world-famous Taj Mahal, is believed to have been an ardent fan of art and fine things. In addition to Shah Jahan's dagger and ring, the collection has over 380 jewels and objects representing the elegance and wealth of the 19th and early 20th century India. US President Donald Trump gave people on Twitter another reason to laugh while referring to Prince Charles. Trump misspelled Wales as W-H-A-L-E-S. Trump's tweet was corrected and posted again on Twitter, but by then Prince of Wales had already started trending on Twitter with 14,000 tweets in no time. Royal Albert Hall joined in the fun and tweeted saying, "Done a bit of work on the hashtag Prince of Wales from the room this afternoon." The tweet was posted with a whale and a crown emoji. A Russian enthusiast, Konstantin Zarutsky, has upgraded a Bentley Continental GT sedan in a very unusual way by installing tank tracks. Zarutsky has a YouTube channel with 3.7 million subscribers. He uses his channel to promote his interest in automobiles and other vehicles. Zarutsky says his upgraded Bentley, called Ultra Tank, is very easy to drive. Zarutsky said that he faced many technical challenges with conversion of the car, which took 7 months. Although he does not reveal how much he has spent on the spare parts, he insists the initial Bentley was the cheapest one available in Russia.